Hi everyone, I'm Bill Harrell and welcome to our program. For the next 30 minutes we'll be talking to Likewise. He's a man who's written a book called Ambitious, One Man's Journey to Conquer the Darkness of Dyslexia, and a man with many talents and who's very eager to help others. Likewise, thanks so much for being with us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I want to ask you from the very beginning, what inspired you to write the book?
Well, I wanted others to see the insight in the book, and I wanted others to know they were not alone, whatever they're going through. I actually think this book could really help them in some capacity in their life.
In reading to prepare for this show, I found out that many famous people had dyslexia. You talk about Albert Einstein.
Wow.
Thomas, Edison. A lot of people that people really never thought maybe had that problem, but did. And so when you look at the population of the United States, it's probably anywhere from 15 to 20% have the problem of dyslexia. You're talking about inspiration in writing a book and trying to help others understand. What was the feeling that you had when you were young and trying to sit there and think, how am I going to get through this stuff? How am I going to make sure that I'm not holding myself back, that I can do?
I had to change, Billy, to be honest with you, I had to change my trait of thinking. I had to start focusing on my other strengths besides the way I learn. So I came up with a couple of things to strengthen me. And hey, here I am today talking to you.
In the book, you talk about the ghost of the inability to learn that haunted you. Tell us about that ghost. What was it like?
Well, that ghost was found out way in younger days. And I guess I came up with this because it helped me identify with giving a name to something. Once you give it a name, you know how to deal with it. And so I came up with the name.
A lot of people have written books about overcoming adversity. A lot of books out there about people that have been challenged in life. But why do you think your book is different?
Because my book, Billy, it gives tips. It gives tips to maneuver your life around difficult situations. It gives tips on how to get through something that is traumatic events in your life. I honestly think, personally, this book could change someone's life and help them overcome just about any situation in their life. Just depends on the person.
Now, when we talk about some ways that you helped yourself, let's talk about that. I want people to understand, when you see the word CAT, C-A-T, what do you see?
What I see, Billy, is like CAT, sometimes the letters seem to crisscross, almost like playing hopscotch. And at times it'll fix itself if I stare at it long enough. But imagine that throughout your life.
But even having to read a long passage of text, you couldn't stay on one word that long to be able to have it work out. So is it kind of like it's jumping around?
Oh, yes, Billy. Actually, I prefer letters be words or spaced because it helps me be able to identify better. But to answer your question, yes, it is very hard.
When did you first think that maybe you had a problem with dyslexia? You probably didn't know the name of it, but maybe that you had a problem. And what are some of the things you did to educate yourself, like hiding different letters in the house and things like that? Tell us about that.
Well, I 12 years old, and I thought to myself, I got to find a way to be more creative toward helping myself learn other than just in a book. So I found my inner strength and gifts exploring myself. So I guess I found my strength, and the word game, the letter hunt game, let's see, It was a number of things.
How would you describe the letter hunt game? What would you do exactly?
The letter hunt game, I would write a word down.
Okay.
And then I would hide the letter, the word, and then I would just say it and spell it as I hunt for it.
Okay.
And that made it register in my brain out to my mouth. So as to speak it, so as to think it.
And that's something you were doing by yourself. You weren't being counseled by any psychologist or a physician or anything like that. That was your own way of dealing with it, right?
Yes, it was.
That's fascinating. Now, the book is an autobiography, and I know a lot of people, when they think about writing things that have happened in their lives, it's kind of tough. An autobiography is tough. Tell us about the challenges of writing about an autobiography.
Well, the challenges was, first of all, knowing my condition. I found myself at times, the emotional part, it's like an emotional ride, or it's like being, I mean, it was very emotional at times. It was very frustrating at some point, but like I said before, my will to write this was stronger than not. So I just figured out a way that I could get this down on paper. It's kind of hard. It's really difficult to explain, but yeah, it's not.
Well, I've read the book, and you really do a great job of storytelling. And tell us why that's so important when you're sitting there trying to write a book, especially an autobiography, how you have to tell some of the stories of your life. There's one, and we'll get into some of your talents later, but people may not know this, but you're an excellent dancer. But it took you kind of figuring out how you were going to do that, and one thing was you found an old Walkman, and you went out in a cornfield, and you danced. Those are great stories.
Well,
and there are a lot of great stories in the book. There's stories, of course, of you when you're going to school and you're going through school. But tell us a story about how when you finished high school and you had always watched your mother cook in the kitchen, and you said, I think that's something maybe I could do, and you got into Job Corps. Tell us that story.
Well, I was at the table studying one night, and I saw my mother cooking. And I looked at her and looked down at what she was doing, and I said to myself, that looks, so I thought that was easy enough, Billy, but I found out it wasn't, but still, nevertheless, I said to myself, hey, I think I can do that, cooking, and then I can eat at the same time. So I found myself in due time going into the Job Corps and took up culinary arts, and it was the greatest experience, one of the greatest experiences I've ever had.
Well, let's talk about that. So you not only, started in the program as cooking, but also as supervision.
Yes,
you were supervising 125 students, right?
Yes, yes.
So you had a lot of responsibility there. But tell us about the challenge of recipes. Aren't most of them written down?
Oh, yes, they are.
Or did you just learn from your mama and nothing was ever written?
Well, I can tell you this now. What I would do, it's a strategy kind of thing.
Yeah.
I would go to the cookbook, and I would write everything down, and I would study it. I would write down the whole menu for that week, and I would take it back to the dorm, and I would study that over and over and over, repeatedly. And that's how I was able to read recipes, read menus, and so on. But like I said before, I have to study things. Like actually, if you had to take a test, and the test is Monday, I would have to study a week before. You could get away with studying 2 days before. That's what being dyslexic is all about. One of the ways that you have to prep yourself way ahead of time.
Now, you come from a large family. I think there were 16 kids in your family.
Right.
And you wrote this book, and there's great stuff. I read the book, by the way, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
It was an excellent book, excellent read. And, there's all sorts of things that happen in your family and things like that. But what do they think of the book?
Oh, they just think it's great. They think it'll help so many, and they're just so glad that I'm not ashamed anymore. you know.
Yeah. Now, let's get back to really dyslexia itself. There may be people out there that don't know anything about it, and you're somebody that experiences it. First of all, what is it?
Well, it's something. Dyslexic is when you have to take letters, they crisscross. At times, you forget right from left. Mm-hmm. Letters switch back and forth. Numbers switch back and forth. That's what dyslexic is all about.
Take a pen, and
okay.
Tell us, for those that may have never even thought about what it was like or experienced dyslexia. If I'm looking at this pen, what should I do with the pen?
Okay, I'll tell you what.
I'm going to give it to you.
Okay.
All right.
I want you to know, if you are sitting around and you got any kind of pencil or pen in front of you, take the pencil or the pen and put it down below your nose and look at it. And then you will see the pencil or the pen going back and forth. You will actually see two. Welcome to the world of dyslexia. Welcome to the world of dyslexic. This is what we go through every day. Imagine your life this way.
So let me make sure. When people are looking, it almost looks like the pen is jumping.
Exactly.
And so when you're looking at like the word cat,
right,
letters are jumping.
Exactly.
And so I guess, does that mean you just don't like to read? I mean, do you shy away from reading? Because most people think that's the way wisdom is imparted, by reading and that type of thing. Is that a challenge, reading large passages and things?
It is a challenge, but you still, it is a challenge, but you don't want to get away from it altogether, because that's part of you wanting to go forward, to get past it, to deal with it and not hide from it. So yes, I mean, I would think it is difficult, but nevertheless, I still try.
Well, once again, how would you describe your experiences with dyslexia that people may not really understand? In other words, when you go into a situation, you come across as obviously, somebody that, is very knowledgeable about a lot of different things. But how do you explain to people that I do have a problem with dyslexia? And it's not a learning disability. I can learn, but it's just harder.
I can, well, you just explain to them, I learn, but just at a slower pace. Mm-hmm. You see, you could still learn, it's just a slower pace. Now, do the instructor or the teacher have the time to take to give to you that extra time? I don't know. But that's the only way I can explain. Or you can tell the teacher you need some time just with her. But once again, to answer your question, I just think try and keep going at it and don't give up. That's the main thing. Don't ever give up.
It's not what you can't do, it's what you can do, right?
That's exactly right.
And the name of the book is Ambitious. That is the big title of the book, and that's what most people are going to be seeing. And you are truly an ambitious person. You are talented in various things. And how did that come about? How did you say, all right, if I've got problems in this area, I'm going to excel in other areas? How did you choose what you thought you could really, be ambitious in?
Well, you have to make up your mind first. You make up your mind, I want to go somewhere in life, and I have to figure out a plan to do this, knowing that I learn differently. And so you have to find the weaknesses and your strengths, and you have to separate them. Things that you are strong at, you put it on hold, so to speak, and you take on what you're weak at, and you try to strengthen it. And then you put that back where you're strong at, and it works together. It's just like what I decided to do was find out what I was stronger at and put it on hold, because I already had that, and strengthen myself with reading and writing and trying to get a better development about myself and figure out who I was. and then you incorporate the two. Well, it's strange because I ended up better with my gifts, 30% using book sense and almost 90 to 100% of gifts that I use to strengthen myself with.
Well, that's amazing. We talked about you watching your mama cook.
Right.
And, you know, you do have a talent in the culinary arts. You worked with Job Corps, you supervised in that thing. We have a video now, and I think this is going to be interesting for people because they're going to see some of your creations, some of your culinary arts creations.
Right.
And
right.
so let's take a look at that right now, and we'll come back and talk about it, okay?
Okay, all right.
Wow, likewise. Ooh, that food looks delicious. Man, how did you develop that passion?
Like I said, my parents, my mom was cooking one night and I was doing homework and I was watching her and she said, you know what, you could do this and blah, blah, blah. And I just said to myself, okay, well, and here I am. I just love to cook.
So what is your favorite thing to cook?
Filet mignon, Bill, and I love chicken Alfredo. That's I love that more than anything, but let me tell you a secret. Stuffed flounder is my best. Because I like oh man, we don't want to get into food.
Now you're still cooking a little, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
yes, I am.
so that's one of the many talents that you have. You know, when you were growing up and you had this problem with dyslexia, you know, did people say sometimes you're just not trying hard enough? Likewise, you know, you're just not putting enough effort into things. How did you feel when they said that?
Well, I felt hurt. I felt rejected. But I guess my parents, they didn't know what I had. They thought it was because of the fact that I just wasn't trying. And that's what they've heard, I guess, from school instructors. So they only, went on what they heard. So, yes, back to your question, I think it hurt me. I felt bad. That's what led up to cornfield dancing.
Well, we're gonna talk more about your talents. We're gonna make you feel good here.
Okay.
All right. Now, where can people find the book? Because I think as we're talking about this, the book's called Ambitious: One Man's Journey to Conquer the Darkness of Dyslexia. How can they find it?
You can find this book on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Books A Million. And I think you also can find it at Walmart now too.
That's great.
.com.
That's great. So it's a great book in the sense that you really have a way with words. You use great metaphors like I felt like a cat on a hot tin roof, and we all know those terms. And you've done a great job of capturing those things. Likewise, you're also a model. And how did you get involved in modeling?
I went to a casting call and I was passed out business cards and things of that nature, and I just said I want to model, and got into it. Had to build a confidence, had to fill out paperwork, which that was the hardest part. But hey, at the end of the day, I was able to accomplish it, so I'm glad.
Well, let's take a look at you on the runway because I think people are going to be surprised to see you in that tuxedo looking so good. Well, likewise, it looks like you were having fun there modeling. I've heard you say that people shouldn't give up on their dreams. How do you help others believe that?
Well, the thing is, it's not I'm helping them. I just give them information, and it's all about themselves. It's how they feel about themselves. First of all, you have to figure out your weaknesses and your strength. And then after you do that, you have to prioritize your life from the smallest to the biggest. And that's what you have to do. And then you can start going into your life, figuring out what helps you. So I think by answering your question, I want to help others by putting out this book, letting them know they're not alone. That if they get this book, they will be able to help themselves in their life and figure out things about them that they didn't know, that book may offer to them as a tip.
Well, dancing is another one of your many talents, and we talked about dancing in the cornfields. How did you get involved in really learning and teaching dancing?
Well, teaching dancing came about, I started in a cornfield, and it led from there, and hey, I've been dancing ever since, and I love it. It's almost like a revelation of some sort.
Well, let's take a look at you dancing in the studio. This is a lot of fun.
Okay.
Man, you got some smooth moves there.
I don't know, Mr. Bill. Do this. Look, do this. Hey, come on now. Come on, bring it in.
I've heard you say over and over again that you want to support dyslexic people of all ages. How can you get out there and really help people?
Because first of all, you have to make them realize that, first of all, when you start off as a child with dyslexia, you end up as an adult still with it. So you don't ever...
Never goes away, right?
It never goes away. Mm-hmm. Sorry to say it never goes away. And, so I think by coaching and them figuring out themselves and figuring out their inner strength, I think that is the way to help them. And you have to start somewhere.
Well, another thing that you decided to get involved in was bodybuilding. And you... I guess, like anything else, you found out that you could do it, that you could do it.
Yes.
How did you get involved in competition?
Well, I started out working out at this gym, and the owner of the gym at that time came up to me one day, and he said to me, "Young man, I've seen you work out a lot, and sometimes you go running 2 hours after your workout." He says, "How about you get into some bodybuilding?" And I was like, I looked at him and said, "Say again." He said, "How about trying to show?"
Well, let's take a look at those results right now.
Okay.
Let's go to that right now. Okay. Wow, now that's impressive.
Thank you.
We're about to run out of time, but I do want to ask the question about the name Likewise, and who is Likewise and who is Alex Thomas?
They're the same person. I just came up with the name Likewise because when people came up to me telling me things they have been through, I always said likewise because I've been through it myself. So therefore, I thought, wow, that's a good stage name. Let's go with that. So I've stuck with it ever since.
So where can people get the book? I really want people to get this book in their hands.
You can get the book at Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart. And I actually think, Mr. Bill, I think that book will help people in their lives. It's full of tips and other life challenges. And you just might find yourself blown away, and it could actually help you find something out about yourself.
It's never too late to be ambitious, right?
It's never too late
What
to
does
be
that mean to
ambitious.
you?
It means to me you hit the ground running.
Well, likewise, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you
This
very
has
much.
been a fascinating interview, and I really appreciate you coming out and taking the time.
Well, thank you for having me, Mr. Bill. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for watching this program, and we'll see you next time.
Since 1981, we've built more than 1,300 homes in Escambia and Santa Rosa counties. But more than simply building homes, we've helped countless families transform into proud homeowners who have invested in themselves and their communities. Love built this home, and love keeps it. Pensacola Habitat for Humanity, transforming communities, one homeowner at a time.